Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Beth, and today I just finished reading this Haruki Murakami book, and I'm about to butcher the title, so please forgive me. It's called Colorless Tsukuru Tazaki and His Pilgrimage, and it was translated by Philip Gabriel because its original text is actually in Japanese. It's over 300 pages long, and it was written in 2013, so now it's a decade old. I think this is my current favorite Haruki Murakami book. I've read two others, IQ 84, which is a very long novel, and Wild Sheep Chase. But I will say this: the book is a lot different from the two other works that I read by him, in the fact that it's a very close knit story. It doesn't exactly go too far outside of what is described in the very beginning of the book. It kind of just says, this is your main character and this was the trauma that affected him that kind of lingered throughout his whole life. And so it's really about how he dealt with this trauma of losing a very close knit friend group from an early age of high school. Well, just about after high school. And so I really enjoyed, and I think this is in due a large part to the translator. I thought it was worded wonderfully because usually my problem with Murakami's books is that it feels a little bit too bland, almost as if you're reading a um, newspaper article. It has a great story plot points, and I love the characters, but a lot of times it can read dry. But I think in this case, it paints it more in a whimsical, colorful picture as opposed to just having the whimsical story, which this one actually lacks. It's so rooted in realism that I find that it's not his usual, minuscule fiction that he likes to write. Because essentially, what I've read so far is Murakami likes to create worlds that are slightly tweaked in a fantastical manner and then have his realistic characters in them. I think that if you don't know the area in which this is set, you'll be perfectly fine. Most of it's in Tokyo, and even then, the traveling that is completed isn't really reliant on your knowing of the area. I think that the main character, who is colorless, has a really interesting arc per se, because I don't even feel like it was much of an arc, but it was just delving into his character and how a man will feel after living, 36 years on this earth, and how he changes and how he related those changes to what he's experienced. Because there comes a certain point in the novel where he describes himself as a completely different being after 5 months of complete decay in a way. He doesn't eat and he becomes this emaciated form. And so it's interesting to think that after all that time, he's no longer the same boy he was, even his face becomes gaunt. And I think that happens with everybody. You have to think of the human body as something that is continually regenerating itself. Every single bit of your body has been completely demolished and rebuilt. So, really, there is no original piece of you other than the fact that you are still confined in the same structure per se. And it kind of raises that argument about the Argo, which is the ship that every single piece of the ship was replaced, but it was still called the Argo. And I think that it was touched upon in this novel on what is actually your vessel and what is actually you. And by changing certain aspects of you, are you still yourself or are you somebody new entirely? Do you need to change names or can you still be the same person? I loved how there was love in this novel, but a lot of it was actually platonic. And the girlfriend, the romantic interest in this book, has more of an interesting relationship angle because when you think about love stories, you think of it as very much boy meets girl, boy loves girl, they're only seeing each other and they're devoted to each other. But there is a devotion in this book, but when you think of people in their 30s, they're trying to settle down, they're trying to move forward in life, and you've already had that kind of lustful encounters in your youth, and now you're looking for something more stable. And you see that with Sarah, his romantic interest, who shares the same name as me, but she's seeing multiple men at the same time, and she doesn't have to disclose that information with the main character, because of the fact that of what she's looking for in life. And due to the fact that they're both in these certain stages, it's not really important that they only stick to one person, but you can still see that love and care there because she is constantly pushing him to better himself, to become stable, to become more than what he is, which I think is really beautiful in a sense. I think that the one problem in this book is the way that some of these outside characters are portrayed. The main character in general is really well developed, and I love the way you can really see his thinking. But you have a lot of these side characters, or characters that just come and play a small role in this ever-going story, almost like the Christmas Carol, and you have those three ghosts, present, future, and past, coming in and doing their portion of the story. It doesn't exactly feel like they themselves are fleshed out characters, but they still move the plot along. And I felt like those ancillary characters were not exactly well put together. I think that they had some interesting motivations and they added flavor to the main character, but not exactly to themselves. So I would definitely recommend this read because it's not that long at all. And if you've never read his other works, highly recommend them as well. And thanks for watching. Have a good one.